Hey honeys, this is your host Celia speaking. I made it through our rugby game this weekend alive and well. Thankfully, so did everybody else. No major injuries. And also feeling pretty good about that because we won 53-5. Our episode this week has three main areas of focus: auctions and events, discoveries and announcements, and finally, institutional news. Let's dive in. The Nelson Atkins Museum announced last week that it will include a Monet work in an upcoming auction. The painting in question is Monet's Moulin des Limites from 1888, which is part of a series. An allegedly nearly identical counterpart was sold at Sotheby's last year by the Palmer family. The museum received the work from Ethel B. Atha, wife of famed Folgers coffee salesman Frank P. Atha, in 1986. Fascinatingly, the museum and the Atha family have worked out a thirds sharing system wherein the museum has 2/3 share ownership and the Atha family retains 1/3. The decision for the work to be included was finalized last November after the museum failed to buy out the Alphas. It is expected to go for between 18 to 25 million when it goes on auction in May in the Christie's 20th Century Evening Sale in New York. The thing that caught my attention most about this story is, of course, that shared ownership arrangement and the position that it put both the Alphas and the Nelson Atkins in regards to this auction. However, it's also interesting because the resulting funds have already been earmarked. ArtNet says, quote, "A spokesperson told ArtNet News the museum is still determining what type of art the fund will acquire, though Nelson Atkins director and CEO Julian Zugazagodia told Barron's he hopes, quote, it might identify the Monets of future, end all quotes. There's also a possible future wherein the public will still have the ability to see this work. So lots of things hinge on the results of this auction. Next, we heard that the sale of Mayan artifacts by a Colorado auction house was completed despite Mexico's pleas for it not to happen. The auctioneer in question was the Artemis Gallery in Louisville, which is located 22 miles northwest of Denver, and took place on March 28th. The auction first caught the attention of two major Mexican political figures. First, Mexico's culture minister, Alejandra Frausto Guerrera, who posted on social media demanding that the gallery stop the sale of pieces, quote, that belong to the cultures of Mexico, end quote, as, quote, there is nothing more immoral than to put a price on the heritage of a nation, end quote. The other political figure who has become involved is none other than Mexico's First Lady, Beatriz Gutierrez Mujer. The translation of her social media post regarding the subject reads that the pieces were, quote, illegally stolen from our territory, end quote. Co-owner of Artemis House, Bob Dodge, declined to give all the items in question to the Mexican government, but noted that and the rest are still available for sale. So why did this story matter, in my opinion? In part because the debate centers over cultural requests and significances to different people versus legal realities. None of the objects either sold or still for sale have shady provenance, aka everything sold appears to have been acquired legally, meaning the Mexican government has no legal claims to any of these objects. This is an important point because the 1970 UNESCO Convention would allow for the sale of exactly such provenance-cleared objects, as does the US law codes. The gallery did conclusively do exactly that research. It's important to examine exactly how the gallery/auction house responded here. According to Art News, Teresa Dodge said, quote, that the auction house has long received requests from foreign consulates and not just Mexico, which she said has amounted to quote-unquote harassment, end all quotes. And both of the Dodges got a little questionably high and mighty and stereotypical in some of their responses, especially the language used in their responses. They say, quote, reporting should be based on facts, not accusations by a government that doesn't want to acknowledge U.S. laws that apply for businesses doing business in the U.S., end quote. A little more troublingly, Bob Dodge questioned whether all such historic art needs to belong in a museum as a deflection method while hammering down on claims that, quote, Mexico displays in its museums less than 1% of what it owns, end quote. So it's better that these objects don't rot in warehouses, as he suggests. Miguel Baradas, Mexico's consul for protection and legal affairs, told the Denver Post in response to similar comments from Bob Dodge, quote, that's a colonial argument that we don't like. We have one of the biggest anthropological museums in the world. We have the capacity, the know-how to manage all of this, end quote. And he's exactly right. Arguments about the inferiority of the level of care, research, or conservation that a given artwork or artifact might have available within one country versus another have long been used as arguments to avoid repatriating cultural treasures. The results from Basel, Hong Kong are also in. This year's event marked a comeback of the fair itself and a recovery from the pared-down COVID-restricted operations of the past few years. The stats mostly showed this in and of themselves. There were 242 exhibitors, up from 177 last year, as well as 69 galleries returning post-hiatus and 23 first-timers. The fair reported over 75,000 attendees this year compared to 86,000 back in 2023. A quick rundown of what the sales from the event revealed. First, the top reported sales from big-name galleries such as Hauser & Wirth, Spruth Magers, indicated a modern emphasis with artists from de Kooning selling for $9 million to Ange Smith selling for $600,000. The art sold indicated strong preferences by audiences for atmospheric, cloudy, floral images, gestural marks, lots of stylized human figures, lots and lots of painting or multimedia objects sold, and lots of the work also involved abstracted elements and vibrant colors. The majority of galleries also saw at least one sale of a blue-chip artist, indicating, as we predicted a couple of weeks ago, that people are looking for secure investments in the upcoming year. A Dacia dealership owner in England found quite the surprise on one of his floor models last week. The owner is quoted as saying in Top Gear, I was absolutely gobsmacked when I opened up this morning. Gobsmacked. A Banksy, a real Banksy. In my dealership. Unbelievable. Haven't been this shocked since that owl got in. End quote. The EV in question is estimated to cost less than £15,000 upon its later release this year, but the appearance of this Banksy original upon it has increased the display vehicle's value by at least 100 times. The local public has been flocking to see the floor model, with some dummies even trying to steal it, so the owner has been in contact with the local council to discuss protections for the piece. Entitled Hope Springs Eternal, the meaning of the piece is quite unclear. According to Top Gear, quote, critics have suggested the name hints at cutting political commentary. The use of the Dacia spring as the canvas for this latest work remains unclear. Some speculations include that it could be a take on the rising cost of living, while others suggest that it could be to inspire critical thinking on comparative EV model costs. In any case, this new Banksy is clearly meant to inspire critical thought, hence it's mentioned here in this episode, but also this ownership dealer is just a gift that keeps on giving. Not only will I wonder about the owl incident for the rest of my life, but he also just does not give a crap in the wildest best way. He said in Top Gear, quote, "I reckon I might have it crushed, like that thing Banksy put through the shredder a few years ago. Went up in value, didn't it?" The article goes on to say that independent experts have confirmed to TopGear.com that this would indeed push the Banksy's auction price into the tens of millions, although a spokesperson for Dacia stressed that the 3-year warranty would be voided, end quote. Last week, headlines also broke that more than a century after Van Gogh painted The Starry Night from his room at the Saint-Remy-de-Provence Asylum, a team of scientists has discovered a new gecko species and named it for the Impressionist. The team of Akshay Kandekar, Tejas Thackeray, and Ishan Agarwal discovered the yellow and blue pattern lizard and, reminded of the famous painter, scientifically named it Synapsis van Goghi, with the common name suggested to be Van Gogh's starry dwarf gecko. You may remember last week we talked a little bit about the ads that appeared across New York cultural institutions for the album. Well, following that, the Guggenheim has publicized its new offering of ad sales on its facade. In an attempt to open up new revenue streams and an admitted result of Beyoncé's unapproved projects last week, the New York City Museum is making approved, financially motivated projections a more regular thing. The first ad planned will be a slow-motion shot of the 2 titular monsters from Godzilla vs. King Kong running across the facade. The Guggenheim's decision to take advantage of the financial possibilities of advertising on its facade may in part be due to the decrease in ticket sales, especially because admission for non-members was raised to $30 last August. This provides them a means of raising lots of money very fast. This is a fairly unprecedented move. However, it's not entirely unpredicted. A fellow target of Beyoncé's New York advertisements, the Museum of Arts and Design, noted the mutual benefits between Beyoncé and museums she has collaborated with or appeared at in the past. There are some major implications of selling the face of an art institution to advertisements, however. It lends these products a sort of validity, legitimacy, highbrow stamp of approval that may be influential upon either these brands' status or the museum patrons who may feel more inclined to purchase these products. It's important to ask here, what does it mean for the Guggenheim to be commercializing itself, literally, physically, and solely for financial gain? We also heard last week that Taliesin West has hired Sasaki design firm to revitalize its site. Says Architecture Daily, quote, "The renowned Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation has entrusted Sasaki with the task of designing a comprehensive design for Taliesin West. Deemed a World Heritage Site, the location is a testament to the cultural and architectural legacy of the famed architect, serving as his winter retreat and experimentation hub. The design seeks to pay homage to the heritage of Taliesin West, while ensuring its longevity and relevance for generations to come," end quote. Says Sasaki principal Susanna Drake, quote, "Our team is collaborating with the foundation to create a plan that respects the site heritage while embracing ecology and sustainability," end quote. All right, honeys, that's all I've got for you today. Hope you enjoy your weeks, take care of yourselves, and we will talk soon. This podcast was created, produced, written, hosted, edited, and fact-checked by master's graduate Celia Bugno. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all of your favorite streaming platforms as well as your social medias.